True peace, kids. Power outages across the plains. 4 questions answered about weather-driven blackouts. Man, peep the slang. The plain states have a lot of wind weather. Why is this cold wave such a problem for utilities? Peep the slang. The central U.S. has freezes, heat waves, windstorm, droughts, and floods. All of these events stress the electric grid, pipeline networks, road rails, and waterways. Right now, in my state of Texas, ERCOT, a nonprofit corporation that manages the power grid for most of the state, is imposing rolling blackouts because demand for electric heating is very high. So is the Southwest Power Pool, which serves customers in 14 states from North Dakota to Oklahoma. Peep the slang. About 60% of homes in Texas have electric heat, and most of the rest use natural gas or propane. Normally, our peak electric demand is on summer afternoons for air conditioning, but in this sustained cold, electric demand is spiking to keep homes comfortable and pipes from freezing. This storm is more extreme than the most severe winter conditions than ERCOT typically plans for. At this time of year, power plants that run on coal or natural gas often shut down for planned maintenance ahead of the summer cooling season. That means we have less capacity available than usual right now. To meet the difference between high demand and low capacity, utilities are cycling power on and off to different neighborhoods or regions of Texas in a methodological way to keep things in balance. If they didn't do this, there would be a risk of much wider scale blackout, which would be a catastrophic and life threatening.
Of course, the other question about rolling blackouts is why? Why shut off people's power when it's below zero? 41I team investigator Andy Alcott spent the day getting answers for us. Andy, what did you find out?
Tia, we're told part of that answer is if we don't conserve to the best of our abilities, we could have a system failure, leaving more people without power for an extended period of time in this terribly dangerously cold weather.
Man, that's
now, with
bad.
the emergency rolling blackouts, we're told utilities can control the power supply. Because the way it's been for at least part of the day today, the power demand has been higher than the supply. Everyone was faced with the same problem. It takes more energy to keep your home or business reasonably warm when the wind chill is 20 below zero than it does when it's, say, 20 above 0. Now, just to give you an idea of how extreme this cold air mass is, at last check, it was 29 degrees in Juneau, Alaska, while it's -2 here. Additionally, Missouri and Kansas are part of a 17-state electric cooperative where power is shared. The problem is the whole region is facing the same extreme cold and abnormal electricity demand.
Where normally you would just, look to your neighbor for some additional resources, that's not available right now for the regional power grid.
And we're told it's so exceptionally rare for this type of thing to happen in our area. The last time we had rolling blackouts was the 1980s. And we're also told the best way for it to end is by something we can't control: warmer weather. Reporting live in Kansas City, I'm investigator Andy Alcock, 41 Action News.
Keep the slang. How do utilities plan for this kind of extreme weather? Peep the slang. Utilities everywhere follow the weather very closely. Temperature changes affect the need for heating and cooling, which drives demand for electricity and natural gas. Meteorological conditions affect the availability of wind and solar power. Thermal power plants, which burn coal, natural gas, or biomass, also need a lot of water for cooling to run efficiently, as do nuclear power plants. If climate change warms rivers or reduces their water levels, it could force those power plants to turn off or reduce their output. Weather forecasting has improved as satellites become more abundant and computer models become more sophisticated. Utilities can take steps in advance of a major storm, such as asking customers to preheat their homes. For ratepayers who will do this, the utility may adjust their thermostats to reduce power flow when demand is high. Power providers can also ask large industrial customers to temporarily shut down factories to reduce electricity demand, and they can give hourly or minute by minute updates to customers about rolling blackouts and provide real time maps of power outages. Peep the slang. Over 5 million electric customers are without power across the U.S., with 4.3 million out in Texas. Man, as severe winter storms continue to cause significant impacts to the electric grid, check out Power Outages US for power outages information. You see the information right here. Peep the slang. Utilities work year-round to harden the grid against extreme weather. They may build berms to protect power plants against floods, fill reservoirs in preparation for droughts, replace equipment that can get overheated in the summer, or weatherize power plants for cold conditions. Almost exactly a decade ago, in February 2011, Texas suffered a significant series of rolling blackouts when cold weather forced dozens of coal and natural gas power plants offline. This cold snap is testing the upgrades utilities made after that event. Peep the slang. 3. Does having a diverse fuel mix protect against energy crunches? Let me say that again. Does having a diverse fuel mix protect against energy crunches? Peter Slang, Texas is blessed with multiple energy sources. Much of it is produced locally, including natural gas, wind, and solar power. Over the past 15 years, the state has diversified its fuel mix. Coal use has dropped, wind and solar have grown, and nuclear natural gas use have held steady. Each of these options has pros and cons. Wind and solar do not require water cooling, so they work fine during droughts and floods, but they vary based on wind patterns, cloud cover, and time of day. Nuclear power is reliable, but sometimes nuclear plants have to reduce their output during heat waves or droughts if their cooling water is too hot or scarce. Natural gas is a high performer, but in the 2011 Texas cold snap, gas plants struggled to keep up with demand because many homes and businesses were using the fuel for heat. That reduced the pressure in gas pipelines, which made it hard to physically move gas to turbines that needed the fuel to generate electricity. Much of the coal burned in Texas power plants come from Wyoming over a sprawling rail network that can be disrupted if a bridge or a section of track is out of commission for repairs. Utilities store 30 days or more of coal in piles near their power plants, but those piles can freeze or be flooded, as occurred when Hurricane Harvey swamped Houston in 2017. Because of all of these options fail in different ways, a diverse mix is the best basis for a robust system. Today, Texas has 3 times as much wind power generating capacity as it did in 2011, which may help save off the worst risk of a statewide blackout. Somebody must have messed up. Okay, 15 years of fuel mixing. Okay, show 2020 as the year that wind finally overtook coal and solar generated enough energy to get its own color on the chart. Okay. Peep the slang. This extra wind would be especially important because about 30% of ERCOT's generating capacity is offline right now, reportedly due to natural gas shortages. Some West Texas wind turbines have also shut down due to icing, but turbines in other parts of the state are partially offsetting those losses. ERCOT will investigate all power losses after this storm passes and use what it learns to make new improvements to its systems. Peep the slang. California has had rolling blackouts recently too. Is this a national risk? California is a big state with power sources in many locations, so it relies on a sprawling network of wires and poles to move electrons from one place to another. Those power lines can sag when it's hot and fail when high winds blow trees down onto the wires. Aging transmission and distribution networks can also spark wildfires, which is a growing risk as the effects of climate change worsen drought conditions in the West. To manage those risks, California grid operators will preemptively turn off the power to prevent wildfires. They also did this in August 2020 to ration power during a heat wave. Man, peep the slang.